10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Champions! Wrexham are promoted. They have their storybook ending.
You can walk through the fire. You can walk through the fire. When it's down to the wire. You can walk through the fire.
Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the Wrexham Texan. My name is Jake Green. Thank y'all so much for joining me today. Go follow me on social media, Instagram, Twitter. You can on Facebook, but my Facebook is not that active. WXM Texan on both. What else? You can watch these streams on my company's website, peacefulsea.network. You can watch this and 2 other shows I produce, along with 2 or 3 others that are coming in 2024. So head on over to peacefulsea.network. We're going to launch a basically a media network, like a company that puts on other people's products as well as our own. And you're going to be able to stream all that for as little as $1 a month. So that'll be coming hopefully in 2024, hopefully January, if things go well. Holy crap, y'all. What a game. What a game. We went into Meadow Lane and came out 2-0 victory. How about that? It was incredible. It was a fantastic game. Let's see. I haven't even looked if there are highlights out yet, but the game was intense all the way up to the 65th minute, maybe 65th minute. Those are the extended highlights. I do not have time for the extended highlights on this show. But yeah, in that 65th minute or 63rd minute, whichever it was, when Elliot Lee scored that game-winning goal. Absolutely fantastic. Let's see. I do not believe. Oh, wait. Is that it? There we go. We're going to watch 2 minutes of these highlights. How about that? Let's do that real quick before we start talking about the match. Here we go. Turn that down a little bit. There were so many chances that I thought Langstaff was going to put one in the back of the net. That dude is so good. It was so fun watching Knots play again. I haven't since last season. I need to keep up with them more often. I don't even know how that ball got to Mullen. It was the one where Mendy cranked it across the goal line. It was nuts. Then Mullen has to go fetch this one. This whole game was just neck and neck. Lee almost put that one in. Slocum is a phenomenal keeper. Look, I can't believe he had to fight for his position again. I realize he's a little older, but that dude can still play. Mullen with the cross, fantastic cross, then kicked right out to Lee. With that, I thought that shot was going in, but Slocum got another hand on it. And then here's Mr. Elliott. Oh, no, that's not the one. Yeah, I'm not really sure where the foul came in here. It could have been Tozer. I couldn't tell. But, Elliott calling for the ball, gets it, drives around. You think he's going to shoot right there. So does the defender. And then he gets right past him, smashes it off Tozer. Could technically be Tozer's goal. I believe it was hit off Tozer. It could have been hit off the Knots defender. So Elliot Lee doing his thing. And then they came right back down and scared us. Arthur Okonkwo, what a save. What a save. That saved the game right there, because if they'd have scored that, we'd have lost momentum big time. And then Mullen with the perfect pass. Boom. Right in the back of the net from Ollie Palmer. What a play. Sealing the game. That was it. They still had 28 minutes to play, including stoppage time. But, man, after that Ollie Palmer goal, you kind of felt like that was it. they weren't going to score again, or they weren't going to score. We had it in the bag. They did give us a couple scares after that and more during the game. But overall, what a game. What a match. That was so much fun to watch. Me and my wife were watching on the couch, screaming at the TV. It was just intense the whole time. And so, yeah, I mean, it lived up to the hype, considering the last one ended in with a PK that Ben Foster blocked. Incredible. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was I thought every single player played pretty well. I don't think anybody was glaringly horrible this time. There were a couple of mistakes made, but nothing that we didn't recover from pretty quickly. George Evans made one mistake, but Tozer was able to clean up. And I thought Mendy went down for good within the first few minutes. Tozer wasn't even on the sheet today to play. And then Tunnicliffe got hurt in warmups, and he was brought from the reserves onto the field. He just skipped right over the bench. So that was an interesting move by Parkey. Was not expecting that at all. Let's go over some stats here. Let's see. Possession-wise, they destroyed us yet again. 63% to 37%. Dual success rate, similar. Aerial duels, similar. Interceptions, 6-6. Corners, 10-7. Yeah, they did not convert off corners, and they do the short corners, which I much prefer short corners as opposed to just launching it in the box. And we're going to talk about that. So I have on a special guest today. It's a Notts County supporter, and I'll introduce him here in a little while. Let's see. Distribution. They had 514 passes to our 290. So they had 224 more passes than we did. Their passing game is so dang good. It's so fun to watch Notts County handle the ball because they're so good at it. They know where they just have really good chemistry, and it's really fun to watch. And they spread the field out wide, which does leave them vulnerable, which again we'll talk about with our special guest here in a bit. But man, it's fun to watch them. It lived up to the hype. It's a 2-3 game, and that's exactly what it felt like. Passing accuracy was great for both. Let's see. Crosses, similar. Crossing accuracy, similar. Like I said, these two teams are very evenly matched. Shots, we talk about the attacking in the interview here in a little bit. Let's go on the defense. We had 11 tackles. They had 4. Our success rates were about the same. 19 to 11 clearances. We conceded 15 fouls. They had 6. We had 3 yellow cards. They had 2. I thought that their team flopped a lot, especially Jody Jones. I talk with my guest quite a bit. He gives me the background on Jody Jones, which I didn't know. And so my respect for him has gone up since the game ended, but it's hard for me to give my full respect to people who take dives and flop around on the ground and act like they're hurt or act like they got touched, which is why Mullen just isn't on my top 5 list of favorite players for Wrexham. I love Mullen, but man, yeah, he flops quite a bit, and that kind of stuff drives me personally nuts. I know it's part of the game, but it is what it is. So yeah, I mean, it was such a fun game. It feels so good to come away from an away game with a victory versus a top 2 team. Let's go over and look at the league table. Stockport still crushing it. Won again. 35 points in the table. We are tied in points with Notts County. If we had scored 1 more goal, I believe we'd be up on them. So we'd be second, they'd be third. But we are in automatic promotion zone at this exact moment, and that bodes well for the second half of the season. Let's see. The lowest, Sutton has 10. We have, 30. So 3 times better than Sutton. I don't know. Is that fair to say? I don't know. Whatever. Either way, we got Mansfield right behind us. We've got Crewe Morecambe, and I'm assuming that's Morecambe. I don't know how to pronounce everything over in the UK, and then Accrington Stanley, they're in the 4, 5, 6, and 7 spots in the playoff hunt for promotion at this point in the season. Yeah, what a game. I've been smiling all day. It's made my day very happy. And after that, Texas A&M, my Texas A&M American football team, also won. So it's been a fantastic day. And then tonight, my Texas Rangers baseball, for those who give a crap, which probably isn't many of you, they play game 2 of the World Series. And I don't believe we've ever won a World Series. I used to be a insane Rangers fan. I would go dress up or paint myself for the games. Me and my brother and our friends would get in for free because we came up with this whole shtick that we had, and we would lead the crowd in chants. It was awesome. So I'm looking forward to watching the Texas Rangers play the Arizona Diamondbacks tonight for game 2 of the World Series. But today I have an interview with a Notts County supporter. He's been a Notts County supporter since at least, I believe he said 1998 or 1999. So he's been a supporter for a very long time. Seen them through thick and thin. Loved the fact that they got promoted last year, obviously. So without further ado, Mr. Luke Middup. Luke Middup, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, Jake. How are you?
Pretty good. That was a heck of a game today. What was your first reaction at the end of the game?
The first reaction was I was disappointed we didn't get anything out of it. I don't think we deserved to win, but I think a draw, a tie would have been a reasonable result. I think we were just lacking the final pass. We were doing quite well in terms of getting into Wrexham's half. We were passing the ball around quite nicely, which is pretty standard for a Luke Williams side. It was just that last pass that didn't quite come off today. I have to say, I think Wrexham did what you need to do against this Notts County side, which is don't give us time and space on the ball. They were very good. They were very good at closing us down, not giving us time to play.
Mm-hmm.
The only other team I've seen do that to us this season is Mansfield, and they absolutely humped us. We lost 4-1 to them. So
okay,
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, a bunch of the Wrexham supporters were a little iffy on the starting lineup for this game, and I think
including your good self, actually.
Yeah, yes, for sure. And I think it ended up proving to be the correct lineup because of the fact that we didn't give y'all any space. I think that we played the matchups more than our best squad, which was an interesting route to go.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we're also missing. I mean, we're also missing John Bostock. I don't think we are quite as sharp as a team without John Bostock.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
Because this is a guy that when he was 16, Barcelona wanted to sign, and you can kind of. I'm not saying he's Barcelona quality, but you can see why in a teenager they might have thought he could be.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it that way.
Yeah, he drove me nuts last season when we were playing y'all. I hated seeing the back of his jersey because you knew he was going down to do something awesome.
Yeah, and he's just very good at controlling the game, getting the ball, playing the simple pass.
Yeah,
just recycling the ball basically, and controlling the midfield.
Yeah, I thought Slocum, despite the 2 goals, was outstanding.
He was absolutely outstanding. And he's come in the last few games because he didn't start the season as first choice goalkeeper. We bought in Aidan Stone over the summer because Luke Williams thinks Aidan Stone has better distribution, is better with the ball at his feet than Sam Slocum. But Sam signed a new contract on the understanding he was going to be back up, and he's fought for his place. He's fought his way back into the team, which you've got to respect, particularly, Sam Slocum's 36, 37.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard, it's always hard to fight for that goalkeeper position because there's only one of them on the pitch. So, but I love how well y'all. I love your short goal kicks. Like, I wish more teams would do stuff like that because it allows you to keep possession and get more time and a little bit further down the pitch before you distribute it.
Yeah, and the idea behind that is to draw the opposition forward, to draw the opposition onto you, and open up gaps in midfield and defense.
Yeah, I thought y'all did that really well. I thought Slocum was fantastic on that. I'm sure that he makes y'all a little nervous sometimes when he holds the ball just a second too long.
Absolutely. And, there have been times this season and last when it's all gone horribly wrong and it just looks like the most ridiculous goal that you can see ever. But it works. It's effective. It's like the other thing is, the way Luke Williams sets his team up, we almost never play long corners. It's almost always short corners, and somebody asked them why. And it's just, you look at the stats, and actually crossing straight into the box from a corner is actually a really unproductive way of scoring a goal because the angle the cross is coming in at is wrong. It's too close to the keeper.
Right.
Generally, and it's too easy to head out. So playing the ball short and back and getting a better angle is actually more effective.
That's how I always play in FIFA. That's the easiest way to score in FIFA is do the short corner. Not that anything in football is like FIFA.
Yeah, quite.
Well, what'd you think? Like, let's go back to the first half because the first half was just neck and neck the entire time.
Well, the first thought is Paul Mullen should have been sent off.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I agree with you partially. I think what drives me, I love Paul Mullen. He's a great goal scorer. I love him on our team. But man, what drives me nuts with Paul Mullen is how much he tries to draw dumb fouls. Yeah. And like he put in this particular instance, I do think he could have injured. I forget who he was over there. It was
Jody Jones.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I feel like he probably could have injured Jody Jones in some, like if it had just gone slightly differently. And I definitely think he deserved a yellow card. I'm not convinced he should have been sent off though. So what makes you think he should have been sent off?
Well, I mean, because you're not allowed to do that. You are not allowed to kick out at an opponent. That is a red card. It really doesn't matter with what force or intent you do it with. You're not allowed to do that. That's the way the rule is written. The other thing is, I think Wrexham had a plan to stop Jody Jones. I think Phil, in his enthusiasm, monitor, as they put it on the show, that he clearly sent them out with instructions to close down Jody Jones, because if you watch the entire game, every time Jones gets the ball, they're doubling up on him. There are two guys going to close him down at least every time he gets the ball. And I think that was reasonably effective. But I think Mullen in particular and Mendy, second half, really threw themselves into a couple of challenges. I mean, you said that Luke Williams should have been appointed the English national diving coach. If you were sitting here right now, Jake, I would get a glove and slap you across the face and demand satisfaction.
Man, I don't know. I do think it's hard with the camera angles that we get in these games. It's not Premier League cameras. You don't get, the nice slow motion, like perfect angles from everywhere on the pitch. So I maintain, and until I'm proven wrong via some type of video evidence, that at least 5 of the times a Notts player went down, he was barely touched, if touched at all.
Oh, sir. Oh, sir. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was for the most part quite an even game, and these are two sides you can tell they are where they are and why they're there. And I mean, I think Wrexham has had an enormous boost from the documentary than from
Mm-hmm.
Ryan and Rob, because I read an Athletic article a couple of weeks ago that actually made the point that Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, beyond the initial purchase of the club, haven't actually had to put that much money into Wrexham out their own pockets, because the documentary has allowed them to basically get the kind of sponsorship that is just impossible.
Yeah.
In League Two.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's worth. This is one of my slight gripes with the documentary, because compared to like a Premier League club, obviously Wrexham are a fairy tale. Obviously, Wrexham are a small club, but in a National League League Two context, no other club could consider dropping £500,000 on a player, £500,000 on a player.
Right.
It's not. It wouldn't ever happen.
It's true. It's true. There have been a lot of people have complained about the success based on the fact that it was the documentary and it was two Hollywood people coming in that have nothing to do with football. And while I agree that like it puts a bigger spotlight, I still do think like you still got to perform on the pitch, and like a lot of things can go wrong. There's not going to always be, you have to have you still have to have all the right players, all like the right manager to manage those players. Like
absolutely. And let's get this right. I would, if this had been the boot on the other foot and Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney had come and taken over, I'd have been over the moon at that. Obviously, right. I mean, these are good guys that I think they're in it. I think they're in it for the right reason.
Yeah.
I think they understand, as all good club owners understand, that the club doesn't actually belong to them. They are custodians of a club that came before them and a club that will go on after them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably the most important thing for an owner of a football club to realize, that your name may be on the legal documents, but you only own the club in the legal sense.
Right. Absolutely. And I think you're right that like all their actions seem to indicate that they are in it for the right reasons. And they like try to put the town first, and they know it's like the lifeblood of the town of Wrexham. So I do like that side of it for sure. So y'all had a lot of chances on goal. We had a lot of chances on goal. In there. I'm going to bring up some stats so we can look at them real quick. Let's look at the attack first. Y'all had 16 shots. 6 of them were on target. We had 15 and 8 of them were on target. What were your, because y'all had it seemed to go back and forth quite a bit, where we had like 10 minutes where we were on the attack and then vice versa. So what were some of your highlights in the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm never going to criticize Macaulay Langstaff. Macaulay Langstaff is a god, but he should have scored in the first half. I think again, not going to criticize David McGoldrick, but I think there were a couple of chances he could have done. I never liked the shot stat, because not all shots are created equal. It doesn't really tell you that much about the quality of a shot or how hard he made the goalkeeper work. I mean, I think with the way we play, we are always at risk of being drawn into that kind of basketball kind of game, because we tend to play with a lot of width.
Yeah.
Which leaves us vulnerable to the counter through the middle of the pitch, or a long ball belted over the top.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the things I hope we fix in January. I think we could really do with like a big hulking 7-foot centre half, basically.
I love the sound of that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, watching y'all's like the way y'all pass and the way y'all move the ball around the pitch is really fun to watch. Like I don't purely enjoy watching opponents play very often, especially against us. And like watching y'all, it's so much fun. because y'all just play
Yeah.
fantastic football out there.
And I mean, this is the thing as well. We got like 16,000 in today, and that's the second time we've done that in successive home games. And I think it's not just because we're playing winning football, although obviously I think that's a prerequisite. It's that we're playing football that's fun, that's fun to watch. And actually, I think it's important here to give the owners, the Reitz brothers, Chris and Alexander Reitz, some credit here, because I don't know if you know this, but their business they basically are a sports data company, or that's how they've made their money, is by setting up these data models that then they can then sell to bookmakers to set odds, basically. So they're not bookies in themselves; they're a data analytics company.
Interesting.
And so, in a lot of ways, they're the opposite of Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, because they came into the club with very fixed ideas about how football should be played.
Right.
And so what they've done is, in the three coaches they've had, Neil Ardley, Ian Birchnell, and now Luke Williams, they've all played roughly the same way, and each coach is sort of built on what came before. So I think the Reitz brothers and Ian Birchnell and Neil Ardley deserve a lot of credit for the way we play. The problem with that can be that if plan A isn't working, plan B seems to be to do plan A better.
That's a good way to put that. I like that a lot.
I think, and this is the thing, when Luke Williams moves on, and he will, I dread that day, because he's a really good coach and a really nice guy, but I think he will move on to better things. It's not like the next coach that comes in will have a radically different way of playing.
Right.
Because the owners will pick a coach that wants to play football according to the principles they've sort of laid down.
Yeah, and there's something to that. Did you ever see the movie Moneyball?
Yeah, I mean that's you've got to think of like Tony Bloom at Brighton, or the guy at Brentford, who I'm blanking on his name, but they have similar business backgrounds to the Reitzers, and it's very Moneyball. It's very data driven.
Is it Matthew Benham?
Yes, that's the guy.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that side of it for sure. I mean, the fact that like here in the States with baseball, that's kind of where it started with our sports over here is, the Oakland A's brought in somebody who was just all about the data, all about the analytics, nothing else. It didn't matter. You made weird baseball decisions as far as like looking at it from a traditional standpoint. And while it worked for like a season, it didn't work once the playoffs were around, because it's more of a, like, you need that length of the season for everything to average out.
Yeah. I've read the Michael Lewis book and seen the film. So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so like, I don't know how, like, I guess in football, it kind of makes sense, because there aren't playoffs unless you happen to, get in the not get in the top three in League Two. So it could very well be massively beneficial to focus mainly on the analytics. Do you like that style of?
I mean, this is the best period of, this is the best sustained period of football I've seen Notts play, and I've been following Notts since the turn of the millennium, since like 1998.
Okay.
And I don't do it anymore because I've sort of grown up. But back in my 20s, me and my brother literally went home and away to every single game. So I've seen a lot of Notts games I've seen a lot of Notts games over the years. And I think what's reassuring about this is the problem. Successful teams succeed in a lot of different ways, but teams fail in one very particular way, and that's when the manager and the players aren't lined up. Or this is my sort of theory, anyway, because there are a lot of different ways to coach football. There are a lot of different formations and tactical setups, that you can use within games, and managers will have their own approaches. And what I've seen with Notts is the owners will bring in, say, a Kevin Nolan, who is a bit like Phil Parkinson, likes to play the ball quite direct, likes to get the ball in the corners, quite physical, sets his teams up that way. And then that doesn't work so well, or it isn't producing the results. So they bring in a Harry Kewell, who is totally different, wants to be a League Two Guardiola. And that can't work, because you're asking a set of players to do something that they're fundamentally not comfortable with. It's like turning an SUV into a Formula One car. They're kind of the same thing, but not really.
Right.
And it doesn't work. And like, if I were sort of looking forward with Wrexham, that would be my concern with Rob and Ryan going forwards, is do they have a vision, not just for how they want the club to succeed, but how they want the club to play? And I think that's where somebody like Sean Harvey, I think having him on the board is an incredibly smart decision, because it's not, in my experience, it's not enough to say, hire a good manager. You need to hire a manager who fits with the club and who fits with the existing squad of players, or you need to back that new manager enough to completely reassemble the squad.
Right. Yeah. And I think they needed someone like Sean Harvey, because their knowledge of football was so little. The first like 3 episodes, they're learning what offsides is and like what all these different things are. It's like I can't personally picture ever buying a club that I have no idea how to actually play the sport. That is a crazy endeavor. Like, that blows my mind that they did that.
It is, but I think, Sean Harvey, like they explain in the documentary, he has been at clubs on the up. He has been at clubs that have nearly gone bankrupt. He knows the EFL and the power structure that actually runs league football probably as well as anybody alive. So I thought it was really smart to have him at the beginning of the project. And I'm not sure how, obviously we don't really know how it works behind the scenes and who's making a lot of the decisions, but to have that voice there, I think is really sensible.
Yeah. We definitely don't know everything. The documentary this season, I'll discuss a couple of episodes after we hop off this interview, but it hasn't shown as much of the behind the scenes stuff as it had last year, especially when it's related to hang on one second. I don't know what happened. I just heard dogs yelping, and when I went in there, they were all just staring at me. So
no worries.
Do you remember what I was saying? What I was talking about? Oh,
you were talking about not as much behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah. So like, we have Fleur Robinson too, who's been in football for her entire daggone life. So like, we have massive football brains behind the operation, which is great. I do wish we got to see more of how that worked. I know she requested to not be in the documentary series, so it's kind of hard to to show that side of it. But it would be nice to know like a little more that goes on behind the scenes with the decision making and like how they run the club. But maybe they're just trying to play that close to the vest. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would make sense. I think it would make sense if they did a little bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, what did you make of the game?
Man, I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I thought it was very evenly matched. It was definitely a number 2 versus number 3 match. Like that was just like it's clear that there are teams in League 2 that are starting to distance themselves. Like we're at the point where Stockport's absolutely crushing it, and so you're being able to see the difference in quality between teams separate a little bit. And so watching this game, I mean, I'm a huge Elliot Lee fan. He's my favorite player on the squad for sure. And so we've been relying on him a lot more this season, especially with Mullen being out in the first 6 or 7 games, whatever that was. So it's no surprise to me that he was the one who ended up knocking it in, or maybe knocked it off one of our other players. But however that ball went in.
it was either Kyle Cameron or Ben Tozer.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit of both, to be honest.
Yeah, and it just seemed like he used them as a ricochet to bounce it in the goal. But I thought I was just super impressed with Arthur Okonkwo, mainly our goalie. He made some fantastic saves. And similarly,
that guy, if football doesn't work out, he should become a boxer because he's got amazing reach.
Right.
Yeah,
he does. His arms are ridiculous. I mean, just like, I love Mark Howard, and he did so much for us to get us into League Two last season. But man, Arthur Okonkwo is just a completely different kind of keeper. And so watching him play today, I mean, I gave him like the player of the match for the Texan of the match, as I call it on my channel. I gave him Texan of the match just because he made some killer saves, and that y'all pummeled us for a little while, and he was able to parry a bunch of shots, or parry a bunch of passes that could have been really dangerous. So I was impressed with that. I mean, I was worried about the lineup from the beginning, and like I personally don't think Sam Dalby should have started the game. Even still, I don't think he did enough. I think he missed opportunities where he should have at least put one on goal. I'm a huge fan of Ollie Palmer playing over Sam Dalby. So I don't know. Overall, I mean, obviously,
as an outsider looking in, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go.
Why doesn't Luke Young play more games?
I'm in a Discord chat with a few folks that we hop on a call after the games, and we were discussing that exact thing where we're not certain. A couple of them said, well, he's not the most athletic, he's not the fastest, he doesn't make the flashiest plays. He's very similar to Ben Tozer in that regard, where he's just like a solid player, except recently Tozer has been less than solid. But today Tozer was great. And so I don't know, my thinking might be James Jones is a little more athletic, which is who Luke Young would come on for. Like it's one or the other. James Jones seems to have a little more speed, which might have something to do with it. There's some theories out there that Luke Young and Phil Parkinson might have had a tiff for some reason, but I can't imagine that would be the case, just because Luke Young doesn't seem like the kind of personality that would face off with the manager. I just don't know.
He just, to me, every time I've seen him play, he just gives you so much control in midfield, because he is so good on the ball, and he's just got such a good range of passing, and he's just so difficult to get the ball off. Yeah, and this is probably like my own personal biases about how football should be played, but I take that over pure athleticism like any day of the week.
Yeah, I agree. He almost never makes like mistakes. He's just a solid midfielder, and I agree. A lot of us are concerned as to why he's not playing. And he's the best captain we've got. Like, he's calm, like level-headed, can actually talk to the refs without screaming at them. Like, I miss his leadership out on the field. That's for sure. So I've not heard any legit reasons why he's not playing. I couldn't tell you. Like,
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the rest of the season, maybe I'll come back when we do the reverse fixture.
Nice.
In the new year. But I mean, you guys are going to be up there because you've already got a very good squad.
Mm-hmm.
And let's call a spade a shovel. You will be able to spend money in January, whether that's completing the Luke Armstrong signing, or whether that's spending that money someplace else. So I think you're gonna be up there.
Yeah.
Like the longer term concern for the for the project that I have, and I'd like to get your take on this, is what happens to the documentary the season you finish 12th and are knocked out of the cups really early, because that will happen. And it's like, how do you make compelling television out of a humdrum, going nowhere season of consolidation?
It's funny. That's funny you should ask that, because this is basically what I was going to address at the end of this episode, is my thoughts on, so this particular season of the documentary series, I think we've seen 11 episodes so far, and I think 7 of them have not been about what's going on with the first team. And it was the biggest season. It was the biggest season.
Yeah, we broke National League records,
and we're not. Yeah, and we're not focusing on the first team. And so, what I think the documentary, in my personal opinion, is making mistakes where these 7 episodes that like talked about completely, like, things that are completely off the pitch and have stuff to do with the town and have to do with the organization as a whole, and are actually good episodes, should have come out in a season where we have a down season. And so, I don't know how they're going to do it, because they're going to have more of those during those seasons.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the thing: a down season is fine. A relegation fight that is compelling television.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, it's the season you finish 12th, where you're just going nowhere fast. And that is the as in talking about your beloved Aggies, that is kind of the life of a sports fan, and that will happen to Wrexham at some stage.
Yes.
And I just wonder, like, how do you get a documentary? How do you get a documentary out of that?
It's not going to be compelling TV. I think they'll have to do more stuff focused on the town more often, focused on stories behind the supporters off the pitch, and some of the off pitch struggles of, like, the players and stuff like that, or triumphs or whatever. Because you're right, like, finishing mid-table is not compelling whatsoever. It's boring. And, like, Texas A&M, my Aggies, are doing that exact same thing this year. And, like, I forgot who we're going to play today, because there's no stakes anymore. We're going to finish middle of the pack. It's going to be a boring season for the rest of the season. I'm going to watch each game, and I'm going to cheer my face off for them. But man, you're right. It does not make compelling TV to be, 12th out of 24. So I don't know how they're going to do it. That would make a huge challenge for the director.
And this is the thing: it's a bridge they will have to cross at some point. It's inevitable.
And it could be, I don't know. I don't think the documentary can go on forever. I think I'm guessing it'll probably be done within 5 seasons.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
Yeah, unless there's if we make some crazy run where we keep getting promoted, like, every year or every other year, then maybe. But, like,
that's really difficult to do. Yes. I mean, Luton, who have gone on the journey Wrexham want to go on, from the National League to the Premier League. That took them, 5 promotions in 9. That was 5 promotions in 9 seasons.
Right. Yep. And that was crazy fast.
Yeah, it was. It was, for a whole variety of reasons, they should never have been in the National League in the first place. So, a lot of that was just natural recovery to, like, a mean. But if that's the journey Wrexham want to go on, I mean, if it happens in 5 seasons, good luck to you. But I don't think it will.
I don't think so either. I think that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Well, what are your thoughts on the league table right now? Because it's looking pretty good for both. I mean,
obviously, if you'd offered it to me at the beginning of the season, I would have snapped your hand off. I thought we'd do quite well, because you don't break points records like we did, and like Wrexham did, and then get up into League 2 and struggle. Because honestly, I don't think there is a massive difference these days between the National League and League 2, to be honest. Although I was feeling very differently about that when Sutton beat us 5-0 on the opening day.
Right.
And yeah, we've tailed off a little bit, but I think what you have to bear in mind is this month we played like 4 of the top 6 teams.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So we've had a tricky period of fixtures. So yeah, I'm happy with second. I think we'll either be in automatic promotion or another playoff campaign come the end of the season. And even if we miss out narrowly, that's not a bad start to life back in the league after 5 years in the National League. The other thing is we managed to keep the playoff winning team more or less intact, which I didn't think we would do.
Gotcha.
I can't
lose players.
Yeah, I can't understand for the life of me why no one came. I'm really glad they didn't, but I can't understand for the life of me why nobody came in for Macaulay Langstaff.
Interesting.
I can't understand how we've still got Kyle Cameron. That guy could easily do a job. That guy could easily do a job in League One. So the only big player we lost was Ruben Rodriguez, who went on to Oxford in League One. And we've replaced him very well in Dan Crowley.
Okay.
I mean, Dan Crowley is not the same type of player as Ruben Rodriguez, but he plays the same position, and he gives us a different angle of attack. And obviously, I don't know if getting Dave McGoldrick back to Notts County was a dream come true, because Dave McGoldrick, he's actually kind of bookending my Notts career, because I remember watching him as a 16-year-old coming out of our academy.
Wow.
And just everybody going, this guy's going, this guy's going to the top, and he did. He played Premier League football. He's been capped. He's been capped by the Republic of Ireland, and he's as a 35-year-old, he is exactly the player you thought he was going to be as a 16-year-old, which is to say he's really big, he's really strong, but he's also really quick.
Yeah.
And he's got a good touch. So getting him back, we really shouldn't have been able to do that. We got him rather in the same way that Wrexham got Ben Foster.
Okay.
Last
that makes
season.
sense.
In that he's coming to the end of his career. His family are all big Notts fans. He's a big Notts fan, and he's never made any secret of the fact that he wanted to end his career at Notts. And so after being League One leading scorer last season, he decided to drop down a division and sort of see out the last few years of his career with us. And he's still unbelievably fit.
Yeah.
For a guy of his age. In fact, actually, at the playoff final, I was sitting about 3 rows over from him, his mum, his dad, and his brother.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love those kinds of stories. I love people coming home to finish their careers there. It drives me nuts when, like, here in the States, American football, if a player plays for the same team for like his entire career and then leaves the last 2 years, that kind of thing drives me nuts. So like them coming home, doing full circle, I mean, that's a great story. And like, it's great that he's been a Notts fan basically his entire career.
Yeah. Like I say, he came through our academy, he came through our youth system.
Yeah.
And in a way, he saved the club, because he was a big part of why the club stayed afloat, because when we sold him, we really desperately needed the money, to be honest.
Interesting.
And I think a lot of Notts fans, at the time were upset about that, because this was a 16-year-old kid that we'd seen a handful of times, and the club had to do what the club had to do.
Right.
But I'm really glad we got to see him again, and I'm really glad he got to have the career that you thought. Because sometimes you can look at a 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old and think, this kid's going to the very top. I remember thinking that when we had Jack Grealish on loan in like 2014, 15, and you could just tell that this kid was so much better than the teams he was playing. And you got the same thing. You got the same thing with Dave McGoldrick. So I'm really glad to see him back at the club.
Nice.
But like I said, we wouldn't. One of the things I like about this Notts squad is it's got a lot of players you wouldn't think you would get in League Two, because the club have taken a chance. So, for example, Jody Jones, your favourite player, should never be playing League Two football. Shouldn't happen. He was playing Championship football with Coventry,
Right.
doing well, and then he does his ACL.
Yeah.
Recovers from that, and then immediately does his other ACL in the other leg. Ends up getting released. Thinks about retiring. Gets picked up by Oxford. The manager at Oxford who picks him up is almost immediately sacked. New manager comes in, doesn't rate him, or at any rate doesn't trust his fitness.
Yeah.
And so we get him, and it's just really nice to listen to him being interviewed, because you can tell the guy's just so grateful to be playing professional football again when he thought he probably wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
Like Dan Crowley, who I talked about a moment ago, we got him off Morecambe, but he sort of started off as a teenage prodigy. He was in the academy at Arsenal. He was in the academy at Villa. Sort of, for one reason or another, kind of lost his way.
Yeah.
Sort of drifted down through the divisions, ended up at Morecambe, and now ended up with us. And again, you just feel like listening to him that he needed to find a club that he could think of as family, and he seems to have found that. Nice. So it's a good squad of players that you want to root for, because they seem to be nice guys, and they seem to be, I think, like a lot of the Wrexham players. It's like you said in the last episode, it's nice to see people going to clubs, for the right reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, you may have convinced me to reevaluate Jody Jones. I like that story. However, I do think he dove a couple of times today.
fair enough.
Diving drives me nuts. Like I'll call it out when Paul Mullen does it, because diving just drives me insane.
Yeah,
I know it's part of the sport, but
it is the bane of football. It really is.
It really is. It just pisses me off. That's why I love it when players don't. And if you're not going to be out there diving, then you have a chance to be my favorite player.
Yeah.
Well, before we get out of here, what are your thoughts on the rest of the season? What do you think is going to happen?
I mean, like I say, I would, generally speaking, if you are up there at this stage in the season, you're generally somewhere around there at the end.
Okay.
There's the old adage that you don't bother looking at league tables until everybody's played 10 games. Well, now we've played 14, so I think we'll be there or thereabouts. I'm not saying automatic promotion, but I think we've got a good chance of another playoff campaign. The one thing that does worry me is, and this is deliberate, Luke Williams has talked about this, we have a small squad. And that's deliberate in that the club wanted to prioritize getting quality in over quantity over the summer. And Luke Williams, says he likes to work with a tight-knit group of players, which is fine. But if you get a run of injuries and suspensions, we are going to need to call on players from the youth system, and we'll see how that goes. We had a kid come on against Newport in the week, a kid called Mamadou Cisse, who came on for about 20 minutes and did very well. There's a kid called Charlie Gill that a lot of people that watch the youth team seem to think is very good. But yeah, I worry. I think that's my biggest concern, is if we get a rash of serious injuries, we're gonna be short, particularly in midfield and going forward. Yeah,
that makes sense. And also, I mean, I like that. I like Luke Williams' mindset of wanting to work with a small number of quality players, and know how you fit together inside and out, and get that chemistry going. Whereas if you have too many players, I feel like the chemistry could be thrown out of whack if you put in the wrong lineup. So yeah.
But I mean, I think that's easier to do in the National League, where you don't have to deal with the transfer window, and you can bring players in until quite late in the season.
Right.
But now we've got January, and that's it.
Yep.
Basically. So I do worry about that. That I think is my biggest concern.
Well, that makes sense. Well, Luke, it's been fantastic talking to you. I'd love to have you back on when we do the reverse fixture. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you want to shout out anything that you want people to follow? Do you want people to follow you on Twitter or anything like that?
I normally don't podcast about football. I normally podcast about various things, sci-fi and fantasy. So
Okay.
I'm part of the Lawhounds Network. So hi Alicia, David, Jean, and John. So the show I do with my co-host Alicia Brenner is called Wool Shift Dust.
Okay.
And we look at the first season of Silo on Apple TV.
Oh.
Alicia has read all the books. I haven't read any of them, so I am the noob to her sage. And I also do a podcast called It Could Be Said with a couple of mates from uni. We talk all things British politics, international politics, and occasionally football, actually.
Okay, Luke, these sound like shows that I would love to listen. Silo is fantastic.
It really is. Really is.
Yeah, great series. I cannot wait for season 2. Apple TV is slow to release season 2 though for every series they make. It's
I've just started watching For All Mankind, and that the first few episodes of that have been awesome.
Yes, yeah. For All Mankind is interesting. It takes some interesting turns in the following seasons. So,
okay.
So buckle up.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, Luke, thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate you coming on.
No, it's been fun. It's been fun, Jake. Really love the podcast.
Thank you very much. Let's we'll hook back up for the reverse fixture, and I'll put all your details. If you want to follow Luke's podcast, you can click all the details in the description of the episode. So there you have it. So that was Luke Middup. We wish Notts County well for the rest of the season, but not too well. Just like, how about one game less than us for the rest of the season? That I can live with that. Just something where I would love for them to get promoted along with us again. I love the rivalry that's being created. And I love that we can keep it civil between our fans and theirs for the most part. I mean, there are still bad apples on both sides, but I love having opposing fans, supporters, whatever on the show, because you have a lot to talk about. You can disagree on a lot of stuff, but you also agree on a lot of stuff. And it's just fun talking football with people you don't normally chat with. So great dude. Definitely going to check out a couple of his podcasts. And like I said, check him out in the description. And go follow his other podcasts. All right. So normally this is the point where I do a review of the previous episodes of Welcome to Wrexham. However, today I'm going to do a much more general review of the series because I have some personal problems with with what's happening with the show. Okay, so I've said many times on this podcast how I don't like offshoot episodes. I don't like episodes that go away from the story. When they happen, it's fine as long as they don't happen very often. I started watching the show and got hooked on the show because in the first season there were 18 episodes, and I believe 15 of them were primarily focused on the first team and their quest to get promoted. And it made it an engaging story. It had a through line from the beginning to the end. You knew what the objective was and you were heartbroken, and it just built up suspense. It built up a fantastic story surrounding fantastic little stories surrounding the primary story. And it just made the first season very entertaining, suspenseful, engaging, and just told the story in a really good way. And so this season has been extremely different. And I'd like to start by saying I actually don't think there's technically been a bad episode. I've enjoyed every episode for what it is. So I'm trying to figure out how to explain this properly. There have been 11 episodes so far. I think there are only going to be 15 episodes in the entire season, which is 3 less than last time, which I don't care for either. I don't like going less than season 1. I want to see the story of the promotion. And I'm sure a lot of you do too. Wrexham was in the National League for 15 years. And this season of Welcome to Wrexham is about the year that we got promoted. And while it is telling great stories, such as the women's club or the women's team, the coal mine disaster, there were a few other episodes I'm blanking, but for now, basically, there are, out of the 11 episodes so far, I believe there are 7 offshoots of the main story. So it's 60%, 65% of the episodes so far have not been about the primary objective of the season, which was to get promoted. We signed so many new players last year. There were so many new faces, and there was a lot that happened on and off the field that I think was incredibly important and entertaining and should be, in my opinion, the focus of this season of the documentary. In that interview with Luke, he made a fantastic point, which got me thinking, and I kind of explained a little bit of it during the interview. But he said during those seasons when you're mid-table, and you're 12th out of 24, what is the documentary going to be about? And that's a fantastic question. And the way I answered it, as you heard, was basically, it makes it hard to create a story. It makes it really hard to create a story when there's really no stakes. There's no stakes when you're 12th. Like, you can't get relegated, you can't get promoted. So where is the suspense? What is the story? So these 7 episodes of what has been happening off the field that has nothing to do with the first team getting promoted, all of them, I believe, 90% of them should have been saved for a season like that. Because I do like the stories, and I think the episodes are really good. They're well made, they're well produced. They show really important things surrounding the town of Wrexham and the community, and the women's team and the other teams involved in the club. But what they don't do is progress the story of us getting promoted, which was the story last year. Like, that was it. It was do or die. Like, if we didn't get promoted last year, the club was going to lose tons of money, which would put it in a very precarious position as far as being able to stay afloat, considering what the pay budget was, how much salary we were paying to all these players that we brought on to get us promoted. And so they set it up at the end of last season that we have to get promoted this season. By this season, I mean, obviously last season, but we have to get promoted. We will get promoted. It is essential that we do. And they did not stick to that story like they kind of said they were going to. And it's been driving me a little crazy. And like I said, it has nothing to do with the episodes that have aired, because the episodes that have aired have all been enjoyable and progressed a storyline, but haven't progressed the storyline that the show is technically about. How many times in season 1 did they talk about getting promoted and the need and desire and want to get promoted, and how much that would help the morale of the town, the morale of the team, the financial prospects, the economics of the town and the club. Like, how often was that mentioned in the first season? And then in season 2, we have almost not focused on that at all. there have been a couple, I think 4 episodes out of the 11 where we've focused only on that. And the rest we just haven't. And yeah, it's driving me crazy. It reminds me, so this is also probably going to be an unpopular take, but it reminds me of the show Ted Lasso. For those who watch the show Ted Lasso, I believe Ted Lasso's first season was one of the best seasons of TV maybe ever created. It had the humor, it had every single emotion in it. It was well acted, well written. It had a perfect storyline. It had maybe a couple tiny minuscule flaws throughout the whole thing. And then in season 2, it abandoned the primary storyline. It completely wiped out anything that happened before season 2. Nothing really mattered from whatever happened before. Everything was different. Everything was weird. They went really caricaturish with a bunch of the characters. They went in a terrible direction, and I think ruined the show. A lot of people still loved it. I think a lot of people, once they get attached to things, they stay with it, and they'll continue to like it pretty much no matter what, and that's fine. That's just not me. I definitely am more of a critic of film, obviously, because I'm in the industry. So actually, I was a critic before. I just like good story, and the storyline in season 2 of Ted Lasso was absolute garbage. They hung on specific issues for far too long. They got really political and they got really political with it. They started like bludgeoning you over the head with social issues that had nothing to do with the show. And they did here's the thing. In the first season of Ted Lasso, they put these tiny little political things, not so much political, but cultural things in the season, in the writing, but they did it in a way that didn't just smack you in the face. And so in the second season, basically they just took like a shovel and just smacked you right across the head with it, and just like used it as a tool to bludgeon you into agreeing with what their overt message was in whatever episode or whatever storyline they were talking about. And that it ruined the show for me. It became less about the team. It became less about a soccer story with surrounding little mini stories and personal stories. And it became only about what was happening off the field. And it was very contrived, very weird at times, not well written at all. Like, it was definitely the fault of the writers, in my opinion. I disliked the whole second season. I gave the third season 3 episodes, and it was the exact same thing. So I just stopped watching. And so what I don't want is for that to happen with this show, because it is a fantastic story and it's a real life story. It's something that actually happened. And I want them to do the story of us getting promoted. I want them to do it justice. I want them to make it the big deal that it was. And they could save it in the last 4 episodes. I don't know, but they could. And if so, I'll get back on board and I'll start reviewing, doing detailed reviews of the episodes again. But I wanted, rather than to do reviews of the past 2 episodes, I want to talk about this. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for today. I apologize if this is frustrating or annoying or offensive to anybody. Wasn't my intention. These are just my thoughts. You can always count on me to be brutally honest and share my opinion. And if I don't know what I'm talking about, you can inform me of such. Or most of the time, if I don't know what I'm talking about and I know I don't know what I'm talking about, then I just won't talk about it. So yeah, if you disagree with me, if you want to have it out and argue with me or debate me on this show about the season 2 of Welcome to Wrexham, or season 2 and 3 of Ted Lasso, you're welcome to come on and do it, because I'd be interested to hear. No one has been able to properly convince me that season 2 and season 3 of Ted Lasso was good. And I have a few friends now that are agreeing that season 2 of Welcome to Wrexham is not what it should be. And they brought it up before I did. So that was telling. So anyway, like I said, these 2 episodes this week, Gresford and Incody. Was that the name of it? I'm just gonna butcher that. What an idiot I am. Let's see. Yeah, Incody, if that's how you pronounce it. Good episodes. Just they're not the storyline that I expect and think the show deserves in season 2 during one of the most epic seasons ever. I mean, it was literally 2 teams broke so many records to try to fight for that number 1 position, and they've barely covered it at all. That's what's driving me crazy. So that's all. Thank y'all so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Feel free to reach out through Twitter or Instagram, WXM Texan. I'm happy to interact with anybody who wants to. Thank you to Luke Middup for coming on the show. And yeah, y'all have a good week. Up the town.
You search my soul with all your heart, you're gonna see it. You're gonna see it. And if you knock my soul with all your strength, you're gonna find it. You're gonna find it.